All right, welcome to the March 25th Lifeboat Academy Coordination Circle. And we are going to get started, even though Ronnie's going to be joining us a little bit late, and we might have a couple other people drop in, who knows. I will start by sharing the screen so we have an idea of what our agenda is. And as is our tradition, we will start with a grounding and check-in. And does anyone want to do the land acknowledgement and grounding, or shall I? I shall. Okay. I'm always curious to see what comes out of my mouth. So I am going to invite us all to take a moment to find ourselves here in the space, the physical space that you are starting in. Take a deep breath in, and on the exhale, just feel the weight of your body sinking down and being supported by the seat on which you are sitting. Take another breath in, feel the cool, energizing air entering your lungs. And on the exhale, just allow any stress or tension, any tightness or stiffness, just allow it to loosen and soften a little bit. And in your mind's eye, I invite you, if you can, to think about what is to the north of you. If you can establish that direction, who are your neighbors to the north? What's the landscape like to the north? What lies in that direction? And likewise, think of what lies to the east of you, to those neighbors and those natural features, if you were to walk in an easterly direction. And also to the south, the angle from which the sun shines at midday. What lies in that direction? Who are your neighbors? What's the landscape like? And also to the west. What lies to the west of you, the direction of the setting sun? And take a moment to remind yourself that this land has been here for time immemorial. And long before we were people, long before we were in these bodies, there were other people here, other creatures, other relations inhabiting this land for thousands and hundreds of thousands of years. And remind yourself that you are in a lineage of people who have inhabited and cared for this land. It goes way, way back. And offer gratitude and thanks to all those many generations of people who have tended the land where you are, cared for it and called it home, protected it and loved it. And remember that this land is what connects us. Your land is connected to my land all the way around the globe. We are on one piece of land. And know that the land and how it supports us, all of the life that sustains us, it causes oxygen to be in the air and food to be on the table, binds us all together in a chain of being. And for that, we acknowledge our gratitude to indigenous cultures from around the world who understood and maintained this wisdom and share it with us even today. And let it be an inspiration to us to reconnect with all our relations and to do all that we can to heal wherever there's been harm, to acknowledge where there have been gifts, where there's been effort, where people have worked hard to make this place a better place, and to commit ourselves to doing the same. And with that, I acknowledge that I am on the traditional territory of the Wasanic and Coast Salish people who are still here, who are still my neighbors, who are still struggling against injustice and colonialism, as we all are, in different ways and different forms. And so may we all aspire to be good neighbors and good relations to all our relations. And with that, I invite you to take one more cleansing breath in, and then release it. And on your own time, come join us back in the circle. And look who magically appeared. Hi, Ronnie.
Ta-da!
I apologize for being late. I've had a day of just back to back, and I had to make food, and so. But
And I
I'm
made
here, so
magic. I made magic while your eyes
yes.
were closed. I made Ronnie appear.
Mhm.
Ding.
All right. Well,
Good job.
let's start with a check-in. And the circle as I see it is April, Roland, Ronnie, and me. And what shall be our check-in question today? What little flame are you kindling? So, what little flame are you kindling? April, over to you.
I'm really quite engaged in kindling very small things right now, but talking about them a lot. So what is the smallest significant thing that I can do in whatever it is that I'm engaged with at the moment, and who else do I tell about it? And over to Roland.
Well, the flame that I'm most close to at the moment is the one that's kindled in just below my stomach. I'm looking forward to making food for dinner. Over to Ronnie.
Kind of a lot of little flames of new friendships, new connections, and the general overarching flame is like being in cahoots. So all of these new friendships are people that I'm in cahoots with for liberation, and I will accept nothing less at this point. So it feels good.
It is
Over to Ben.
one of my favorite expressions, being in cahoots. Running amok and being in cahoots. Flame am I kindling? I think I am kindling a little flame of it's all okay, even if it's not okay. Sort of relaxing into the process, relaxing into I guess that maybe it is, it's sort of no matter what, there is that little niggling feeling like, well, we got to do something, it would keep on keeping on. It's the keep on keeping on flame. That's the little flame I am kindling. All right, so we take a moment to start by looking at our North Star, and I am proposing a slightly different question for this week, just to keep it fresh. And that question is, what is the challenge in what we are doing? What's really at the core of the challenge that we are taking on? So April, and of course, circle rules apply. You can always pass and we'll come back to you. And April, over to you. What is your take on the challenge that we are taking on?
I think we are seeking hearts and minds for a good reason, for a good positive reason. And there's a challenge in defining that and accepting that, I guess. On to Roland.
Specifically for the coordination circle, it is to continue transitioning into this format where there's a team of lovely people who are coming on board and dispersing task for greater collective energy. Over to Ronnie.
Figuring out how to structure and fortify a network of people so that it's both accessible and resilient and sustainable. I said both, and I meant all three of the following things. Back to Ben, over to Ben.
Oh, I think the big challenge is trying to describe water to fish. I think the big challenge is that I think we collectively all know something is amiss, and but it's really hard to. It's easy to describe all the things that are a problem, but it's hard to describe what the alternative looks like. And I think part of that is also that we were just at our meditation this morning. Andy from Headspace was talking about how you can't talk about meditation. You can't talk about what meditation is because it's something that is beyond words. And I think it's the same basic problem that we're talking about, a way of seeing the world that is that our current language, when we use our current language, it just reproduces our current way of seeing things, and we're trying to introduce a different way of seeing things. So I'm gonna come back to I think the problem is trying to describe water to fish, and figuring out how to make that happen. And so we'll take actually, let's go once through two and just see, since we were doing 3 questions and now we've done 1, so let's just go once through to see if there are any, now that you've heard other people's take on the challenge, is there anything that's coming up for you? April, over to you.
What's coming up is that I'm not being very practical today. I'm being very aspirational, I think, and perhaps even lyrical, which I try to do at other times. I just wasn't expecting it to happen right now. And I did have a question about the water to fish. Do the fish want us to describe water to them? I don't know, over to Roland.
That was great. I'm good. Over to Ronnie.
I had a thought and it went away, so I'm good.
I like your question, April. It's a really good one. And so we move on, kind of again, going from sort of North Star big concept and getting ourselves narrowed down and focused. So we take a look at what our annual and seasonal plans are. And the current focus, as I understand it, as we understand it now for each of the guilds, Heart, Work, and Philosophy is really exploring the deep engagement. How do we get people thinking about that worldview and questioning what the water looks like? Principles in governance is really focusing on onboarding and what do we need to let people know so that they can come up to speed. Finance and legal is really focusing on the legal structure, engaging the lawyers to make that happen, and figuring out how to pursue the social mortgage so we can secure the property. Farm, Food, and Housing is really intending on focusing on the game plan for the garden and the farm, but right now it's about organizing the farm team, which is proving a little bit more challenging than we had thought. And Outreach and Network is refining the offerings, looking at the materials, and thinking about how do we start to, or how do we continue? We don't have to start. How do we continue to communicate outwards about what we're doing in a way that brings people in? And at the high level this year, our goals are to establish the legal entity, complete the purchase of the property, onboard people who've been involved all along, but maybe haven't been formally onboarded, and for new people that are coming in, and figuring out how we can continue that outreach process, being able to understand and establish priorities so that we can use the resources that we have available, both people power and other resources, to the best end. And what are our baselines? Recognizing that we are at a kind of a key starting point, and making sure that we can measure our progress as we move forward. So that's what we have. And once around just for reactions or comments, anything to add or note? Over to you, April.
No, I don't think I have anything to add to that. So on to Roland.
Over to Ronnie.
Yep, thumbs up.
All righty. Over to the calendar. I think this always goes to the wrong calendar when I click there. It does. I'm going to stop. I will reshare to the right calendar. All right. So on the calendar for this week and next, we have we finally set our times for HiveMind, but we haven't actually initiated that process. That's probably something for us to talk about today. And we do have an Asana onboarding scheduled for tomorrow at 3. We've got a mentorship meeting on Wednesday morning and a podcast Wednesday afternoon. Heart, Work, and Philosophy is on Thursday. Finance and Legal is on Friday morning at 10:30. And then we have our Sociocracy 101 onboarding at 2 on Friday. And with a good crew actually signed up for that, good number. And next week, we'll have the coordination circle, same time, same place. And then we've got Outreach and Network on Tuesday afternoon at 2. A navigation session Wednesday morning at 10. Principles in Governance, which had to be canceled last week, will be for next week at 2. And then our HiveMind for Friday morning on the 5th. So that's what the 2-week calendar looks like. Any comments, questions, or additions? April.
No, over to Roland.
That's good for me. Over to Ronnie.
All good. Back to you, Ben.
Wakadok. So coming back to Asana. All right, rounding and check-in, North Star, annual plan, calendar, done. So guilds, what are the reports from the guilds? Let's start with Heartwork and Philosophy. So April and or Roland wants to take this one.
I'm pleased that my whatever it is, caretaker is what we are, is here as well. We haven't had a chance to talk since last week. But I would like to announce that on my part, I'm making some headway on the 6 Conversations PowerPoint, which was one of my homeworks, I think. And over to Roland.
And as a good caretaker, I completely neglected to look at what our homework was. So I don't have very much to report. I would like to say that from my memory, or at least what I'm feeling, something that would be good is to for Heartwork to establish a process to decide what to focus on when. So that would be going back to the driver statement and looking at what was given as our, our work for the year, and also what to do when there are new ideas that come along. So just if anyone from the Heartwork Guild hears this, this is a little bug in your ear about. I think that's something that would be good for us to talk about. So Heartwork Guild members hearken to the meeting time on Thursday at 2. And if there's anyone who'd be interested in joining us, or just to check it out or to hear, or you are welcome. So over to Ronnie, or back to Ben for the next guild.
Oh, and I think, Ron, did you have anything to add or questions or anything?
Oh, no.
Okay. I do want to add that there was, at the last Heartwork meeting, there was a conversation around what the potential next steps could be. So this is not, it's not a blank piece of paper, and there has been a conversation, and I would phrase it more as, how do we actually come then to some decisions about priorities, since we've got some ideas in the hopper. How do we kind of finalize that choice? And so next up is principles and governance, and the report there is we had to cancel. I canceled our meeting last week because I had an important trip to town, unscheduled trip to town. So we didn't get a chance to meet in our normal time slot, but we are advancing with the onboarding. So we hosted the onboarding level 1, which went, I think, reasonably well, except we had a Zoom glitch in the middle. So we made it about 3/4 of the way through, and then Zoom just cut out, and then we finished up. And so one of the next steps actually is posting the level 1 video, which is also involving Roland learning how to combine 2 videos into one, and so that we can upload them to YouTube, and probably requires some editing. So that's in process. And then we also, as I mentioned in the calendar, we've got Asana onboarding tomorrow, and Sociocracy 101 on Friday. So, And then we'll be having a meeting next week to move forward on things. And any questions, comments? Seeing none, we'll go finance and legal will be meeting this week, and I think what is in process now is Becca is setting up a meeting time. Oh, I guess actually, I don't know if I can't remember when the last meeting was, but we finalized our proposed structural agreement. So we had a really good conversation, and we've got a clear sense of, I think we're all on the same page, and Becca is setting up a meeting with the lawyers. And so next steps will be that meeting. And actually, and the other thing too is Roland is in the process of reconnecting with Joey. So
I like to think of it as sending him a yoo-hoo email.
yes, complete with a little handkerchief. Yoo-hoo. Yes. And so that's that. And then over to Roland, Farm, Food and Housing. Any updates there?
I will be very soon sending a meeting invitation using the scheduling app for the members of the Farm Guild. Over to Ronnie. Back to Ben, I guess.
No, actually over to Ronnie, Outreach and Network. Update for Outreach and Network.
So it looks like I did my homework, but really I just copied and pasted what Ben wrote in notes for the last meeting. So
Oh,
I just revealed my hand. But so yeah, it's pretty self-explanatory. We talked about scheduling the lifeboat circles and navigation sessions, and decided that we're going to continue with the every other week navigation session. And we're going to solidify the plan for lifeboat circles when we talk about seasonal priorities, which is going to be our next meeting next week, next Tuesday. I'm still getting used to the schedule. And we also talked a fair amount about basically onboarding people into the group. So talking about what the guild does and all the different ways that we do outreach. So the newsletter and social media and all of those elements. We wove in some about how heart work and outreach both have sort of responsibility for or input into the lifeboat circles and how that could work. And we also debriefed the webinar about the bioregional learning centers at the end of the meeting. I sent out the bi-weekly newsletter after that meeting, announcing our onboarding sessions, which are currently in progress. And I think that was it. Oh yeah, and so next meeting we want to talk about specifically what our seasonal priorities are. So what does the schedule of events look like? What are we going to be including in newsletters? What are our other what are the ways in which the guild can support the farm folk, the priorities for the greater organization? So the purchase of the property, et cetera, et cetera. I think that's all I have to report.
Cool, awesome. All right, well, we've covered then all of the guilds. So next up, we have a new item on our agenda. We added at our last one, which is that really the coordination circle is the place to think about our hive mind focus. And I think part of the question is, my understanding is we have one hive mind time per week that alternate kind of are juxtaposed to finance and fundraising on Friday morning and outreach and network Tuesday afternoon. So we have a hive mind time scheduled for tomorrow, technically at 2. But we also have at 3 o'clock the onboarding for Asana. And so in my mind, there's an open question about whether we want to try to do hive mind time this week. And if so, what we would use that time for. And then also next week, right, not this Friday, but next Friday would be our next scheduled hive mind. And so, any thoughts on that? We also, April, you and I have a meeting at 1:30 tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
Yeah. So that's another, I think, a possible argument for not having the hive mind tomorrow. And we do have, I looked at, and I'll share, because I was going through what to cover in the Asana onboarding. So I was looking at all of the different projects. And so we do have a number of things that are on the list in the hopper. But when I look through them, none of them are especially urgent. A lot of them are quite sort of small things and actually things that could get tasked out to the different guilds. Oh, actually, I'm just going to change this. Nope. So, some of these are actually tasks or tensions that could easily be discussed in one of the guilds. They aren't necessarily something we need to use hive mind time for. So there are just some random thoughts there, but since we have it on the agenda, I thought and we've got plenty of time, so let's just go around and thoughts on hive mind at this point. April, over to you.
Can you remind me what hive mind is again? I mean, I know it gets tensions and throws it in the hopper, but then what is the actual format?
The actual format varies depending on the nature of the tension. It actually depends on how far along the thinking has happened. Generally speaking, we start by gathering considerations.
Right.
And depending on the nature of the tension, a lot of them, if they're more, sometimes there's a tension where there might be something that kind of feels like a conflict. And then it might be useful to go through the drivers, what's going on under the surface, how do we do that? But oftentimes the tensions are really an invitation for brainstorming.
Right.
And so then we go through gathering considerations and brainstorming potential actions, then prioritizing the actions, then finalizing a plan. And actually, it can be helpful just the way that we have it structured. So there's the hopper, and then ideas in need of a driver. That's where we do gathering considerations. Clear driver statements is then where we're brainstorming for actions, coming up with proposals. So we're brainstorming the actions in the RFP and the proposals, and then when gets to the agreement, that's where we're kind of finalizing a plan. So Yeah, back to you.
Can I also ask about the color coding for the guild stuff on the right hand? Is that urgency? Oh, I thought maybe red might be really urgent.
No, that's just which guilds it relates to. So, just the principles and governance is the AIM Act reflect that lives with principles and governance. Propane for the house, that's a farm. Oh, it's a dual between finance because we got to pay for it and farm, food, and housing. So it's just who's affected by the tension.
Thank you. And what was the question?
Thoughts.
Oh, any
Thoughts
more
on how to use hive mind time. And one, should we have it? And should we have it tomorrow? And if we should, how should we use it? And that's pretty much it.
Well, I don't think we should have it tomorrow because I won't be there. Not that that is integral to the process, but I would rather be there for hive mind at some point. And I guess there are probably some things that either are a little bit more time limited or have time conditions attached to them that maybe should be identified.
Mhm.
Other than that, I have no opinions on priorities except to start at the first thing and work through, just in turn. And over to Roland.
Thanks. I think we've already had a discussion about this, and those of you who know me will know that I don't quite remember if we came to a resolution about it. One of the and around the hive mind, have we talked? I know that we talked about how we started talking about how hive mind was going to be used, because now that we've got the guilds, there are some topics that might be on the in the tension and ideas hoppers might be best discussed within the guild at a guild meeting, as opposed to have time set aside. So I guess this is my question, or trying to remember what we talked about. Is hive mind for when a guild either has something that could have an impact on other guilds. So I guess that's it. Or yeah, I guess that is my proposal. I'm sorry, I'm working this out as the words are coming out of my mouth. That the hive mind is used when it is it inter when there are inter-guild questions, issues. Like, for example, I think we decided to go with Kumu, which is down towards the bottom of the list, to continue working with Kumu. I could be wrong about that. So then, is that something that would be that is something that I think would be intra-guild, influencing the different guilds. And then gas and propane, I suppose. Anyway, there are some that might be more better to start off, at least as a discussion in the main guild that it pertains to, and then the guild would decide if it's something that they would like to consult with other guild members or other guilds about. So over to Ronnie.
Yeah, so I think how we phrased it, the last conversation we had about this was hive mind is when there are two or more guilds involved in attention. Otherwise, it's up to individual guilds to work it out for themselves. And we use coordination circle, which is what we're doing now to, so if there's a new issue presented, okay, is this 2 or more guilds? If so, it can go in hive mind. If not, outreach needs to work it out or whatever.
Mhm.
And I guess we could also, it makes sense to use this time to go through the hopper and see, yeah, do we need to have a hive mind meeting this week? I also think it seems like squeezing in a meeting tomorrow would be a lot. It'd be, at least for Ben, that would be a lot of meetings back to back. And if there's nothing super urgent, then it doesn't seem necessary. And then my last comment is, the ones that I see, well, the first 2 that are designated for outreach, I think can just go directly into the outreach guild. And also, I think that these can actually help inform our seasonal priorities. So, changing stuff on the website, we've already talked about as a possible priority. And then I think looking at privacy generally is a good thing to think about. I think that's that's a responsibility of the outreach guild. So this is just like, oh, these are good things that we can talk about at our next meeting.
Mhm.
So yeah, just wanted to add that. Over to you, Ben.
Yeah, I agree. That's my memory as well. And it's I think I kind of think of hive mind as flex time as well. It could be, generally it's going to be things that are 2 or more guilds. Or it could be something that's really big for one guild and they don't have the time to deal with it in the guild meeting. I think that's why we bring it up at the coordination circle. It's what's the best use of that time. And but generally speaking, yeah, the hive mind is more when it's going to be more hive mindy, the more guilds that are involved, the more relevant it is to kind of work through things. And I actually would, I guess I'm going to make a little proposal that I think can just be a thumbs up, if you agree, or we can talk it through. But that and maybe that's one of the things that we do when we do hive mind, when we actually have hive mind. If tension is one guild and one guild only, each of the guild projects have their own tension hopper, and we just remove it from the hopper, from the shared hopper. And the guild can always, and I guess that's also in thinking about how the guilds function, guilds can always send attention back to the hive mind, right? A guild could say, we can't deal with this. We're gonna bounce it back to the big hopper. But so that's actually, and yeah, that's my proposal, is that if it seems like it's a single issue, a single guild issue, we pull them off the board, and that's one way that we can stay a little bit more focused. So questions or concerns, or is that just a thumbs up?
That's a thumbs up for me.
Okay, all right, cool.
do-
Then, and it sounds like there's no burning desire to have a hive mind tomorrow. It certainly isn't for me. So,
I think, did you want to say something, April?
Yeah, I had one more question. And what triggered it was the AMAC Reflect belonging to the principles and governance. That is something, though, that the habit of doing that and seeing the work as part of that is part of the workflow should happen in all the guilds, right? So is it that the principles of governance checks to see that that is happening with the guilds?
that's how I conceived it. It's partly it's onboarding that we AMAC reflect everything. But then who is the keeper of that? Just like Heartwork is the vibes watcher, I think of principles and governance as the process watcher. And so that's, I think it's a question for principles and governance. How do we make sure that that's happening as it should? Yeah. And because it is kind of built in, it's also built into the process in that we have quarterly seasonal updates from the guild. So that's a way of inviting that. So that was my thinking in that part.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. So then we have set our hive mind focus for this week, which is none. And we do have we're kind of just clicking through things, and we're coming up to the sprint mantra. But I just want to go through and see, we've got plenty of time. Are there any kind of coordination level conversations, things to bring up since we've got some time? Is there anything that is on anyone's mind that would be relevant and useful to bring up at this point? April, over to you.
I guess I'm just wondering if anybody is noticing, particularly anybody that's been to a lot of the meetings, noticing any frictions or sticking points that happen kind of for everybody, or confusions that happen for everybody, I guess. That's just a question.
Is that over to me or?
I think it is now.
Yeah, okay. I haven't been to all of the meetings. I feel like there may be the similar questions coming from the same people, which is an indication of, you know, uh, maybe specific person needs or. So I don't think I sense an overall pattern, but there are similar things that come up usually with the same individuals who are in more than one, also more in more than one guild, which is most of us. Over to Ronnie.
Yeah, I have nothing to add right now. Over to Ben.
I think for me, it's the water to fish thing, which is, or a balance point around inviting people. There's a sort of inviting people in, and then also I don't know what the right word is, like a challenge that, you know, we can do some onboarding, but people have to also onboard themselves, you know, and some of these cons. And I think it's also comfort with discomfort, that a lot of what we're doing and how we're doing it, it isn't going to be neat and tidy. And and I think there's a desire for things to be kind of neat and tidy, and which is, you know, just normal. And so yeah, kind of balancing out the how much can we do to create a good opportunity, and then how much is it just going to be like, yeah, we'll have to figure that out. And I feel the same way with the guild, the Venn diagram of the guilds, you know, especially outreach and heart work and governance are, you know, that's a challenge to figure out where those lines are. I think that would be my answer. And just once more around anything else that people want to bring up at sort of a coordination level. Back to you, April, if there's anything you want to add.
I don't think so, though I'm thinking about patterns, and it's pretty early in the process for patterns to be emerging anyway, but I'm just wondering if this is the place where when we see a pattern that we bring it up as a question.
Yep.
Okay. Over to Roland.
I have nothing to add at this point. Over to Ronnie.
Nothing else to add. Over to Ben.
Alrighty, that brings us to mantra, and I think I am good with these the mantra. It still seems like it's where we are, and does anyone have anything that they want to add to it to keep us on track as we move forward? April?
I mean, this is just bouncing around on my mind, and as well, of course, I'm into bumper stickers. But just, are we asking the right questions?
I'm not sure that that's a mantra. I think that's a good challenge. That's a good question to ask, or I'm not, how does that, I'm not sure how that keeps us focused as for where we are in the next week or two.
Maybe it's about a larger thing, like how do we keep focused overall
Mm.
over a longer time, sort of a sustainability thing. And it's if it was a bumper sticker, it would just say, you know, questions, question mark, question mark. I mean, one way to get into uncertainty is to have some questions raised and then follow them around, right? Anyway, over to Roland.
This might be related, but I was just reading the top one, and it made me think of learning to unlearn and learning to unlearn to relearn, which I think is just a different way of or it dovetails with asking the right question. In my mind, anyway. It might not be. Anyway, over to Ronnie.
Bio Akomalafe says, question your questions. So I think that just made me think of that. Yeah, good question to question our questions. And that feels less like a mantra and more like a thing to make you really confused. So maybe opposite of a mantra. I don't know what that is. Anyway, I have nothing actually constructive to add, so I'll pass back to Ben.
The opposite of a mantra would be an antronum.
It's a koan.
That's right.
As in koan. It's nonsensical questions.
As in Bernie Cohen. He's always asking weird questions. Yeah. I think this is a very interesting conversation, and somebody should open the wine and we can continue this offline. So I think that brings us to the end of our coordination circle, and pulling in with plenty of time. So let's just go once around. I think we pretty much have had our anything else to get out there, and so it's just a checkout question. Last thoughts for the good of the cause. Over to you, April.
I like being in the sandbox with you guys. Over to Roland.
Since we are not having a hive mind, I don't think this will be a super long conversation. Anyway, do you have 5 to 10 minutes after this recording to have a chat? Over to.
Oh, it was just last thoughts, right? I have no last thoughts. Those are my last thoughts are that I have no last thoughts. Back to Ben.
This is all getting very zen. Yeah, I'm good. I like being in the sandbox with you too, April. And so that takes us to the end of our coordination circle, and I'm gonna stop the recording, and we'll post this on our YouTube channel ASAP. And of course, I guess it's good to put at the end of this a reminder that you can always contact us for one-on-one office hours. Check out the website, lifeboat.academy, and that also will get you ways to link into the help desk or other ways to contact us, including email at friends@lifeboat.academy. So all of that until next week.